Hello YouTubers, it's me here once again doing another video about hockey, and this time last night the Edmonton Oilers were eliminated from the playoffs and it hurts. It's one of those series where fans who know hockey know it hurts. Hey, as a Canucks fan, I've lived through two Game 7 losses in the finals. I kind of know hockey hurt as a hockey fan. But anyway, getting into it, watching that game, I could tell right after the second period to the third, the more I watched it, the more I said, this team is just not good enough. They're not good enough to win. They're lacking stuff. And to anyone who says that they lost to a really good team, really needs to go watch that series because I don't think they lost to a better team. Because anyone who watched that series knows Anaheim was pretty much a two-line team that entire series. It was two lines and two centers off their third and fourth line that they always plug in and out. But if you really looked at it, it was a two-line team beat you. And looking at it, now you go into the offseason from now to the pretty much the expansion draft is the next big thing. And what happens there? Please God, please God, please God, take Pouliot off this roster. It'll save the Oilers, I believe, about $4 million, which it could easily be given to Leon Draisaitl, seeing how he played. And that's the big thing this year is Leon Draisaitl. I know management wants Connor McDavid to be signed this offseason before he gets to next year and potentially has a great season, or like Crosby wins the cup, but I don't think he's winning the cup next year. That's just my opinion on it. With Connor, I say give him the blank checkbook. Give him the OV deal. Give him the Ovechkin deal because you have to say he's worth it. You can just look at guys and you say, you don't bridge them, you don't hardball them, you give them the bank, and that's your team, and you build around it, sort of what Chicago did. Well, Chicago is kind of in a quagmire because they did it with two guys instead of one, but is what it is. Leon Draisaitl is going to get paid this summer, and by paid I mean he's getting paid massively, I think, and I've heard people talk about this. How much is he going to make? I think somewhere between 6 to 8 million a season. And I've heard people say, well, he just played with McDavid. That's the only reason he finished top 10 in scoring. Well, the argument I have to that is, well, you can play with McDavid, but just because you play with McDavid doesn't mean your point totals are going to be very good. He's played really well during the playoffs. He was probably their best player last round after a sort of first round where they sort of said he was battling the flu. So he's a good player. I will say this 100%, Leon Draisaitl. It doesn't matter what you give him is worth the money, but then you also have to re-sign Chris Russell at the offseason, and that could be where the Oilers start getting us something. You need to sign him. I don't think there's a guy that played with more heart, more courage, more soul during this entire playoff run than Chris Russell, who once again proves he's worth the price of admission. Just the one thing is, can the Oilers afford him? But you look at it, you have some contracts coming off the books here, and it's really interesting to see. And also the year after McDavid finishes an entry-level deal, then you have to re-sign Cam Talbot. That's going to be this team really in the next few years might look drastically different than what it does now. Good or bad, it is what it is. It just is what it is. You can't change it. It's just going to be that way. You look at some other things that happened during their playoff run, and this is the hot button topic, I guess, around the league, and especially here in the Edmonton area. I'm a Canucks fan, but I live in the Edmonton area. And everyone asked me, how the hell did that happen? Well, at the time I started watching hockey, the Canucks were good and the Oilers were shit. That's how that happened. But, and they had a player by the name of Pavel Bure. That helped too. But I look at this team, and the big topic around here is Pouliot, Nugent Hopkins, and Everly. And last night, in heat of anger, I kind of said, ship all of their asses out of town. And the more I calmed down, the more I thought about it, they're in a really hard situation, Chiarelli is, because he gave none of these guys those contracts. He inherited terrible, terrible contracts. He inherited a terrible Taylor Hall contract, which people for some reason bitched about the fact they traded him for Adam Larsson. Adam Larson's a better fucking player. So suck it if you don't like that deal. It was the best deal, and I said at the time, this was a great... They only gave up Taylor Hall to get Adam Larsson. Like, that was a fucking steal. But I digress on that topic and everything. Oiler, now you're looking at these contracts and you're saying you're paying guys $60 million and you have no goals. Okay. Or you can have no goals, but you're playing well defensively. No. They did not play well at all defensively. They played like shit. Whoever that after the first intermission guy is, whoever's supposed to pump up the team, whatever, get them going or whatever, fire his fucking ass, because he did a shitty job all year. And it's not just been this year, it's been many years where their second periods are their downfall. And anyone who watched Game 7 from the second period on would say, and I'll be blunt about it, the Oilers did not deserve to win that game. You can blame the refs all you want. The referee for the Oilers throughout the series both series was brutal. I think the only reason that they called the last two games like they did is just to get the league off their back. When you have Grapes pretty much inferring that what, do they have fucking money on the game or something? It kind of throws shade at it, but I look at them, they did not deserve to win. But going back to Nugent Hopkins and Everly, put this in perspective. Zach Kassian, who a lot of people when he came here thought was a scrub, was pretty much out of the league. He had more goals than that entire line. He had more. Pekka Rinne, as a goaltender, has more points in this playoffs than Jordan Eberle. How the hell's that happen? You have three guys coast. And I'm sick and fucking tired of hearing people saying Ryan Nugent Hopkins was shutting down people. Who the fuck was he shutting down? Third, fourth line guys that never even fucking played? Because as soon as he got against Getzlaf, the best move McClellan did was break up the McDavid line, put Draisaitl at center, because it meant he didn't have to play Ryan fucking Nugent Hopkins against that shit. If you're looking into next year, the first thing I'd be asking Ryan Nugent Hopkins to do would be say, can you play wing? Because you sure as hell can't win me a goddamn face-off. And that's another thing about this team. They need fucking face-off help. Maybe their guys will grow into it. Who the fuck knows? But after 6 and 7 years of in the league, you'd figure you'd at least get a goal. Like, combined, think about that. That's 11 games each. That's 33 games, and you can't give me a goal? Any of you? But I digress. What the hell do I know about hockey? Just been watching it for over 20 years. There's a lot of stuff about the Oilers that I look at going into this offseason as well. You have some contracts coming off the books, some dead weight. Hendricks is gone, Grybe is gone, which it blows my mind. You look at the Oilers, and I know they're going to say, well, maybe Griffin Reinhart isn't ready. But if he's not ready, I still trust him as a skater. He's a better fucking skater than Grybe. I still don't get why the fuck you put that guy in there. He virtually never win when he's in the lineup, but hey, what do I know? He's just another jabroni that shipped you out of town. And there's also a couple other things with Ryan Nugent Hopkins and Jordan Eberle and Pouliot. You might lose Pouliot in the expansion draft. You might lose some other guys. The thought about it to me is you can't trade them either. And it's really a conundrum because you won't get a fair deal for them. And they're just not, they're at such a low trade value. I've heard people say, well, looking into next season, well, they can only go up. Well, no, they could actually have no points in the playoffs and a deep run, which to think they got nothing out of those guys and they still made it to the second round. Oh boy, that's not good. But looking at it, fans would say, yeah, what do you do? I'll probably make a video about the Canucks because I think that team I have more of what I think they have to do. And I think one of the major ones is a couple players retiring. But I look at this team and I say, what is their goal for next year? They might be a lottery team next year. I see a lot of that Calgary Flames in them from a couple years ago where they're not really good enough to go this year. Do you trade your first round pick, maybe pick up some guys, maybe do something like that? I don't know. This is such a quagmire of a team over the next few years because look at this. You're going to have to re-sign Kajula next year. There's so many contracts coming up. This team better do a really goddamn good drafting because in the next few years they're going to be, if they don't get rid of these contracts, which I look at Nugent Hopkins, I look at Eberle, it's great. Yes, they're good. They could be good players. But it's the stupidity of Craig McTavish, Tambellini, Lowe, that entire bullshit era of the Oilers that was giving money to guys that were not proven, that weren't good enough, and were on bad teams, and were good players on terrible teams. This is what you end up with, and I knew 1 year it was going to catch up with them, and I think it might be not this year, it might be next year, but who knows. There's also that thing you could take them and sign them, but could hold on to Nuge for 1 more year, see what you get out of them. But anyway, that's me once again. Here's another video for me. Be sure to like, comment, favorite, subscribe. Like I said, I'll probably do a video on the Canucks here pretty soon and just give my opinions on where I think they're going. But once again, peace.